The airport terminal had gone suddenly still, though the voice of the gate agent tried to hold steady. Her words cut sharp across the air. A public challenge hurled toward a man who neither flinched nor replied. "Sir, you cannot proceed beyond this point. You'll have to step aside." The officer in front of her did not move. His frame was rigid, his eyes unreadable, and at his side rested a flag-draped case. The unmistakable silhouette of a coffin's protective cover carried with reverence. The staff member, pressed by procedures and protocol, failed to notice that the man before her was not merely another passenger. He was a tomb guard, one of the few entrusted with the silent duty of escorting the nation's fallen home. For a breathless moment, the passengers nearby watched, paralyzed between curiosity and unease. Some shifted uncomfortably, pretending not to hear. Others craned their necks, whispering. The injustice was sharp, immediate. A man bound to sacred duty was being stopped as though he were smuggling contraband. The soldier's silence grew heavier with every second, like a weight pressing down on the room. His lips never moved, but his stillness was louder than any protest could have been. He was tall, his uniform pressed with the precision of ritual, his posture unbending. A faint scar traced along his jawline, not fresh but permanent, as though carved there by years of service. His eyes, fixed ahead, saw not the employee in his path but the sacred promise he had been ordered to keep. He was escorting home a comrade who would never walk again, a brother to someone waiting, a son being carried home in silence. For him there was no negotiation, no compromise, and certainly no retreat. He had stood in worse places under harsher suns before harsher men. Memories swarmed behind his quiet stare. Memories of sand and gunfire, the scent of cordite and dust, the weight of lives counted and lost. He had been young once, 19 and burning with certainty, when he raised his right hand and swore the oath. He'd marched through blistering summers at Arlington, training until the skin of his heels broke and bled, enduring in silence, because silence was the tomb guard's answer to pain. That silence had become his language, his armor, his vow. Each shift guarding the tomb of the unknown soldier was a crucible, every step measured with the precision of eternity. He had learned then what few men truly understood, that honor was not spoken, it was lived. Years of service had hardened him, not into stone, but into something more enduring. He carried the ghosts of those who had gone before him, friends he had once laughed with in foreign barracks, men he had fought beside whose names were etched on black granite walls. In quiet moments he remembered their faces, not with tears but with the weight of responsibility. They had given him their final trust, that he would keep watch, that he would carry them if they fell. And here, in the bright fluorescence of an airport terminal, bureaucracy dared to stand in his way. The gate agent, nervous under the scrutiny of a growing crowd, repeated her instruction, her tone sharper this time. "Sir, this area is restricted. Please hand over the case." But her words faltered as she noticed the case more clearly. The triangular fold of a flag stitched into the fabric, the unmistakable emblem of sacrifice. Still, procedures demanded compliance, and her supervisor gestured sternly from behind the counter. Around them, passengers fell into silence. A mother clutching her child's hand glanced away, ashamed of watching. A businessman checked his watch, muttering under his breath. No one stepped forward. No one spoke for him. The soldier stood alone, an unmovable figure beneath the weight of unseen centuries. The tension thickened as two airport security officers approached, their hands resting casually yet firmly near their belts. Authority gathered like storm clouds, preparing to enforce compliance. Yet even as the air grew brittle with confrontation, the tomb guard did not shift. His silence was defiance, but not rebellion. It was something deeper, an unspoken declaration that some duties existed beyond the reach of man-made rules. One officer leaned closer, his voice low but laced with authority. "Sir, we'll have to escort you out unless you cooperate." Still no answer. The soldier's breathing was steady, his gaze unwavering. To those who watched, it became clear. This was not obstinacy. This was devotion. This was an oath made flesh, standing its ground. A ripple moved through the crowd, quiet but growing. A veteran in worn jeans and a ball cap, who had been sitting silently near the boarding gate, stood up. His hand trembled as he raised it. Not in salute, not yet, but in recognition, he knew. Others saw his quiet motion and followed. Uncertain at first, then certain. Soon, Row by row, passengers rose from their seats, not speaking, not cheering, but standing in that same silence the soldier himself embodied. The staff faltered, their confidence eroding. This was no ordinary traveler. This was a man carrying the nation's promise on his shoulders. A whisper passed through the onlookers, soft yet insistent. He is escorting the fallen. The words spread like fire through dry grass until no one could ignore their meaning. And then came the shift. A single phrase, spoken not by the tomb guard but by the veteran who had first stood. His voice cracked with age but rang with conviction. No one stops the last watch. The words hung heavy, echoing into every ear, branding themselves into memory. The security officers froze. The gate agent lowered her hand. The passengers, now dozens, perhaps hundreds, remained upright, their silence transformed into reverence. The soldier moved forward, slowly, with each step measured and deliberate, and the crowd instinctively parted. It was not submission, it was recognition. It was recognition. It was respect. As he passed, children pressed against their parents, eyes wide. Men who had once thought themselves hardened felt the sting of tears they could not explain. Women clasped their hands over their hearts. Every soul in that terminal felt the weight of history passing before them. Not history written in books, but living, breathing sacrifice. The supervisor who had demanded compliance lowered his gaze, ashamed. He realized too late that rules had been wielded where reverence was required. The tomb guard did not scold him, did not even glance his way. His silence, more eloquent than any rebuke, delivered judgment enough. Step by step, the soldier moved through the terminal until he reached the jet bridge. There he paused. The stillness was so complete it seemed the world itself was holding its breath. And then finally he spoke, words so few, yet they carved themselves into the heart of everyone present. He is not baggage. He is my brother. The dam broke. Tears spilled freely. Hands rose instinctively to hearts. Some saluted. Others wept openly, unashamed. The officers who had once threatened to escort him out now stood at attention, stiff with belated respect. The agent who had barred his way covered her mouth, unable to contain her sobs. The soldier gave no further speech. He simply turned and continued forward, carrying the fallen with him. And the crowd, as one, followed in silence to the window. Watching as the flag-draped coffin was prepared for its final journey, no one sat, no one moved until the plane's door closed. The terminal had been transformed into a sanctuary, if only for a moment. Long after he disappeared from sight, the weight of his presence remained. Strangers who had never spoken to one another exchanged glances heavy with meaning. A child asked his mother why everyone had stood, and she answered with trembling voice, "Because that man is a guardian, and that soldier he carried gave us our tomorrow." In the end, there was no need for apologies, though many were whispered in the silence that followed. The true victory was not the soldier's defiance, but the dignity that overcame ignorance. It was a reminder, etched into every witness, that respect is not optional. It is owed. The tomb guard never asked for recognition. His duty was not to be seen, but to ensure the unseen were honored. Yet on that day, in the sterile walls of an airport, his silence taught more than speeches ever could. His walk became a sermon of honor, his stillness a command to the conscience. He had lived by a creed that few understood, but all could feel in that moment, that the fallen are never alone, and those who guard them never falter. He showed that true power lies not in force or in words, but in the unshakable stillness of a promise kept. For those who watched, the memory would not fade. They would carry it home to dinner tables and living rooms, telling loved ones of the day a silent soldier stopped time in an airport. And though most would never know his name, they would remember his words, whispered like a vow, "He is not baggage. He is my brother." And so, as the echoes of that moment stretched beyond the walls of the terminal, the lesson became clear. Silent strength is the loudest voice. Respect is the highest duty. And some battles, though fought without weapons, change hearts more powerfully than war ever could. If you are hearing this story now, carry it forward. Let it remind you of the unseen guardians who walk among us, bearing duties too sacred for words. Share where you are listening from. Share how this moment touches you, and hold close the truth that honor never dies. Subscribe for more stories of those who stand silently, so that others may live freely.